Alrighty, folks, welcome to our Major League Baseball free pick video here today for Saturday, May 18th, 2024. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, my daily best play is just 6 cents a day for 30 days of service on my premium site. First game, White Sox, Yankees, 105 East. New York's the $3 favorite, totals 8 runs. Luis Gil for the Bombers, Brad Keller for Chicago. Despite a couple of solid appearances out of Keller with the White Sox here this year, the righties got 0 wins to show for it. And, of course, Chicago's biggest problem this season has been their bats. They're dead last in hits and runs scored. Andrew Benintendi hits a $195. Nicky Lopez, 200 on the dot. And they're going to have to face Luis Gil, who's been solid for the Yankees. Gil's 4-1 with an ERA in the 2s. He also has 48 strikeouts and a 1.09 whip. And, you know, that's really been the strength of this Yankee organization this season, their pitching. The Bombers are allowing under 3.1 runs a game in the Bronx. They're actually 14-6 in Yankee Stadium thus far. Injury-wise, Robert and Ramos are both still out for Chicago. When it comes to the total, Chicago's last 3 road games fell under the total. They're also 8-2 to the under in their last 10 at any location. Meanwhile, New York went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. Give me the Yankees -1.5, under 8. Next game, little divisional game here. Pirates-Cubs, 2:20 p.m. East. Chicago's the $2 favorite, total 7.5. Shota Imanaga for the Cubs. Bailey Falter for Pittsburgh. Now, Falter's definitely allowed his fair share of runs. He's got an ERA in the 4s, and he does not have a winning record. And even if he does have a good showing here today, probably not going to get much run support. The Pirates are a bottom 5 run-producing team in the National League. Jack Sawinski hits just 168. Triolo just 201. And we should see more of the same here today with Shota Imanaga on the rubber for the Cubs. Shota's a perfect 5-0 with a sub-1 ERA. The lefty's also punched out 51 hitters and has a stingy .94 whip. At the plate, the Cubbies are doing a nice job getting on the scoreboard at Wrigley Field. They're a top 5 run-scoring team at home in the National League. Now, injury-wise, Swanson's still out for Chicago. Horner's questionable. Meanwhile, for Pittsburgh, Ke'Bryan Hayes is out with a back injury. Now, total-wise, Chicago went 60% to the under in their last 10. Give me the Cubs -1.5, under 7.5 runs. Next game, Rays-Jays, 3:07 East. Toronto's a $1.35, total 7.5. Kevin Gausman for Toronto, Zach Eflin for Tampa Bay. And I'll tell you, Eflin's shown some exceptional command over his pitchers. He's walked just 4 batters in 53 innings this year. No real surprise, the righty's got an ERA in the 3s, along with a 1.13 whip. And I'll tell you, in the Rays' recent games with the AL East on the road, well, Tampa got the W in 5 out of their last 8 contests. They're facing a Toronto lineup on the other side who've been feeble at best. They're in the bottom 3 in the league in runs per game. George Springer hits 196. Dalton Varsho just 211 with the second most strikeouts on the team. Now, injury-wise, Justin Turner is questionable for the Jays. Brandon Lau still out for the Rays. 8 out of Tampa Bay's last 10 meetings with Toronto did get over the total. So if you're into historical trends, plenty of overs to go around. Give me Tampa Bay plus $1.15, over 7.5. Next game, little NL West action. Rockies, Giants, 4:05 East. San Francisco's a $1.95, total 7. Kyle Harrison for San Francisco. Ty Blach for Colorado. And Block's been a lone bright spot for this Rockies franchise. He's got an ERA in the 3s, and he's actually recorded only 1 loss through a handful of appearances. Now, over the past few weeks, the Rockies have been an excellent covering team with regard to the run line. They went 7-3 against the number in their last 10 outings. And they are facing one of the worst run line covering teams at home in San Francisco. These guys have cashed in on the run line in just 9 out of 23 home games. And a lot of that shittiness is due to some poor appearances at the dish. San Francisco's a bottom 5 run-producing team at home. Flores is hitting just 207. Matt Assless Chapman has the most strikeouts in the lineup. And, of course, one more thing to add about Colorado on the other side. Out of their last 8 ball games, they actually got the outright W in all of those contests except for one. Now, injury-wise, Bryant and Jones are still out for Colorado. Diaz is questionable. Meanwhile, for San Fran, Ahmed and Slater are still out for them. Lee is now out for the season. 6 out of the Giants' last 10 ball games got over the total. Meanwhile, Colorado saw their last 4 straight on the road get over the line themselves. 7-3 to the over in their last 10 at any location. Give me the Rockies plus 1.5, over 7. Next matchup, Mariners, Orioles, 405 East. Both teams are minus $1.10, pretty much a coin flip, total 7.5. Corbin Burns for the O's, Luis Castillo for Seattle. And as good as he's been on the hill, well, Castillo's recorded 5 losses already, and he does have a losing record. And most of that has to do with these Seattle bats. The M's are striking out more times a game than any other lineup in baseball right now. And they unfortunately have to face Dean Kramer, who's got a bunch of strikeouts on the mound himself, along with a whip of just 1.02. Now, Kramer is also backed by one of the best hitting lineups in the game. Baltimore is currently in the top 5 in runs per contest. Ali Rutschman's hitting .318 and leads the clubhouse in hits. Gunnar Henderson's got the most homers in the league. When it comes to the injury list, Hayes is questionable for Baltimore. Polanco day-to-day for the M's. J.B. Crawford, he is also on the injury list with that oblique tightness. Total-wise, the M's are 60% to the under this year when they bat first. Give me the Orioles minus $1.10, under 7.5. Next game, Mets, Marlins, 4:10 Eastern start time. The Mets are $1.35, total 7. Luis Severino for the Mets, Braxton Garrett for the Marlins. And I'll tell you, Garrett's had a dreadful start to the year, and it's kind of been the story with this Miami pitching this season. They're allowing over 6.2 runs a game in their own building. That's obviously a league worst in that category. And unfortunately for them, they're facing the best run-producing team on the road in the game. And I know you think I'm crazy. I am talking about the Mets. New York's actually leading the major leagues right now in run production while traveling. J.D. Martinez hits .309. Pete Alonso's got the most home runs. New York is 14-6 to the over as the road team. No real shock there. Meanwhile, Miami's 18-6 to the over at Lone Depot Park. Give me the Mets minus $1.35, over 7. Next game, Nats, Phillies, 605 East. Philadelphia is $1.85, total 7.5. Chris Sanchez for Philadelphia, Mackenzie Gore for Washington. And don't let that win-loss record fool you when it comes to Mackenzie Gore. He's thrown some really good stuff this year. He's got 51 strikeouts and just 40 innings of work. The lefty also comes into today's contest with a solid .338 whip. And then when it comes to cashing in on the run line, this has been a solid covering team this year as well. The Nats are actually covering the number in over 65% of their road games. Meanwhile, the Phillies on the other side, they've cashed in on the run line in just 50% of their divisional home games. And even though there's not a ton to nitpick when it comes to the Phils, well, starting pitcher Chris Sanchez, he's run into some problems this year. He's got only 2 wins on the season through 42 innings of work. He's got a losing record on the year, and he comes into today's start with a sloppy 1.50 whip. Now, injury-wise, Turner still out for Philly. Garcia day-to-day for Washington. 3 out of the Nats' last 5 divisional road games got over the total. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is 60% to the over at Citizens Bank Park. Give me Washington plus 1.5, over 7.5. Next game, little AL Central action. Twins, Guardians, 6:10 Eastern first pitch. Minnesota's $1.20, totals 8 runs. Bailey Ober for the Twins, Logan Allen for Cleveland. And Allen certainly had some issues on the mound here this year. He's got an ERA of 5.56 along with a 1.50 whip. And out of their last 10 gatherings with the Twins, the Guardians have had some issues with Minnesota pitching. They've averaged only 3.8 runs a game in their last 10 head-to-head gatherings. So once again, if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Of course, as far as this year is concerned, Freeman's hitting just a $197, Rocchio just 208, and they have to face Bailey Ober, who's been pretty much unhittable in most of his starts. He's got just one loss on the year with an impressive .88 whip. Of course, this Minnesota pitching staff has been pretty dominant in most spots. They're striking out more batters a game than any other staff in baseball. But I'll tell you what, it ain't just pitching for Minnesota at the moment. These guys are pounding the baseball on the road. They lead the American League right now in run production per game while traveling. And when it comes to the injury list, Buxton and Lewis are still out for Minnesota. Stephen Kwan still out of the lineup for Cleveland. Huge blow for them. Give me Minnesota minus $120 over 8. Next contest, Brewers, Astros, 7:10 Eastern start time. Houston's $1.50 at home. Totals 8.5. Justin Verlander for the Stros. Bryce Wilson for Milwaukee. And Wilson has looked solid in a handful of outings. He's recorded only one loss through 34 innings. The righty's also got himself an ERA in the 2s, along with a 1.12 whip. Of course, even if Wilson has a rough outing here today, the Brewers can definitely hit with the best of them. They're leading the National League in hits per game. William Contreras has the third highest batting average in the majors at .353. Fifth most RBI at 34. Of course, Christian Yelich, he is batting .338 himself. And they're facing a Houston squad who struggles against the National League. They actually lost 3 out of their last 4 interleague home games. They're also winning just 33% of their contests against the National League. Now, injury-wise, Chas McCormick's out for the Stros. Hoskins inactive for the Brewers. Milwaukee's last 3 straight Milwaukee's last 3 straight road games got over the total. They're also 8-2 to the over in their last 10 at any location. Meanwhile, Houston went 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. Give me the Brewers plus 1.5 over 8.5. Next game, A's, Royals, 7:10 Eastern first pitch. Kansas City's $1.80 at Kauffman Stadium. Totals 8.5. Seth Lugo at home for the Royals. Ross Stripling for Oakland. And I tell you, Chicken Strip's having one heck of a bad season for Oakland. Giving these guys like minimal opportunities to win games. The righty's a pathetic 1-7 with an ERA just about in the 5s. And he is backed by one of the more pitiful lineups in professional sports. The A's are averaging a league-low 6.5 hits a game while traveling. And unfortunately for them, they've got to face Seth Lugo on the mound, and he's been dominant for Kansas City. The righty's 6-1 with an ERA of 1.66. And of course, at the plate, these Kansas City hitters are very selective. They're striking out fewer times a game at home than any other roster in the game. Salvi Perez hits .335 and ranks 5th in the big leagues in RBI. And Bobby Witt Jr., he has the 2nd most hits in the lineup. Now, 6 out of KC's last 10 gatherings with Oakland did fall under the total. Give me KC minus 1.5, under 9. Next game, Red Sox, Cardinals, 7:15 Eastern first pitch. Boston's $1.20 on the road, totals 8 runs. Cutter Crawford for the Red Sox, Miles Mikolas for St. Louis. Now, Mikolas has pitched like a moron this year. He's got 5 losses, a losing record, and a sloppy ERA of 6.19. And even if he does end up throwing well here today, these Cardinal hitters are just sad. They're averaging fewer runs a game than any other lineup in the National League. Nolan Gorman bats just 193. Lars Nootbaar just 209. And they'll probably end up failing hardcore against Cutter Crawford here today for the Bo Sox. The righty's got an ERA in the low 2s, whip of 1.11. And as a pitching staff, the Bo Sox have been unhittable away from Fenway. These guys allow fewer runs a game on the road than any other pitching staff in baseball. Now, injury-wise, Yoshida and Heineman are out for the Red Sox. Contreras inactive for St. Louis. The Cards are 61% to the under at Busch Stadium. Meanwhile, Boston went 8-2 to the under in their last 10. Give me the Red Sox minus $1.20, under 8. Next matchup, AL West action. Angels-Rangers, 7:15 Eastern start time. Texas is $1.45 at home, totals 9. Jose Urena for the Rangers, Patrick Sandoval for Los Angeles. I'll tell you what, Sandy continues to have a job in the majors somehow. I don't know how, but he does. And as far as this year's concerned, he's just 2-6 with an ERA in the 5s. And as a team, the Angels lost 5 out of their last 8, and they're officially 11 games below 500 for the season. And they have to face one of the more dangerous lineups in their division. Matter of fact, the Rangers are in the top 5 in the American League in hits per game in the box. Adolis Garcia, he has the most homers and RBI in the lineup. He's in the top 10 in the league in both of those categories. And Marcus Semien leads the clubhouse in hits. Now, despite a lackluster record on the mound, pitcher Jose Urena's done a decent job of keeping runners off the base paths. He comes into today's start with a solid 3.62 ERA. When it comes to the injury list, Langford's still out for the Rangers. Sano and Drury inactive for the Angels. Texas saw 8 out of their last 11 divisional home games stay under the total. They're officially 70% to the under in all of their contests at Globe Life Field this year. Give me the Rangers minus 145, under 9. Next matchup, Padres-Braves, 7:15 Eastern first pitch. Atlanta's $1.20 at home, totals 8.5. Bryce Elder for Atlanta, Yu Darvish for San Diego. And I do think Darby gets the job done here today. He's got an ERA in the 2s, along with a sub-1 whip. Of course, as a team, the Pods do play their best baseball on the road. They've got a .619 win percentage in their travels this year. They are currently the best road-hitting team in the game. Jurickson Profar bats .325 and leads the roster in hits. Luis Arraez bats .326 with the Friars. And they're taking on Bryce Elder, who hasn't been overly crisp on the rubber this year. The righty's got a 1.65 whip with an ERA close to 5. And for some reason, these Atlanta pitchers don't particularly dominate at home. They're a bottom 5 strikeout team at home on the mound. And out of their last 10 head-to-head gatherings with San Diego, well, the strength of this team, these Braves hitters, well, they've struggled with San Diego pitching. These Atlanta sluggers have been held to just 3.4 runs a game on average in their last 10 head-to-head gatherings. Now, injury-wise, d'Arnaud and Riley are questionable for the Braves. Give me the Padres plus $1, over 8.5. Next game, Tigers, Diamondbacks, 8:10 Eastern start time. Arizona's $1.55, total 7.5. Zach Gallen for Arizona, Jack Flaherty for Detroit. Now, I actually think the public is going to get fooled by Flaherty's record. He's 0-3 on the year, but he's thrown absolutely filthy stuff. He's looked great. I know it sounds crazy, but the righties fanned 63 batters in just 48-plus innings. Only 6 walks during that time frame. And no real surprise, the righty Flaherty has an ERA in the 3s, along with a solid 1.05 whip. Now, as a team, the Tigers do play their best baseball on the road, so Flaherty does have a chance to get a W here today. And they are taking on an Arizona squad who has all kinds of troubles covering the run line. These guys failed to cover in their last 4 straight at home. They also have a handful of key guys who just aren't getting the job done at the plate. And this guy, I don't know what his problem is, because he was one of the best players in baseball last year. But Corbin Carroll, he's hitting a dismal 188 at the dish. He's been a liability in the lineup. Of course, Eugenio Suarez, he's hitting just 216. Now, injury-wise, Perdomo and Thomas, they're both still out for the D-backs. Jock Peterson's questionable. When it comes to the total, 3 out of Detroit's last 4 road games did get over the total. They're also 60% to the over in their last 10 at any location. Give me the Tigers plus 1.5, over 7.5 runs. And with that, folks, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the video. It's going to be in that Reds-Dodgers game, 9:10 Eastern first pitch. The Dodgers are minus 225, totals 8.5. Walker Buehler for the Dodgers, Graham Ashcraft for the Reds. And even though Ashcraft hasn't been as crisp as he was last year in spots, he does still come into today's game with only 2 losses on the year and a winning record. And I'll tell you, these Cincy pitchers have been mowing them down on the road. They're allowing under 7.1 hits a game in their travels. And they're facing a Dodger club who certainly has their issues cashing in on the run line. These guys have a losing record against the number on their own field. And Walker Buehler, he's kind of looked like a bit of a shell of himself in a couple of appearances this year. I don't know if he's not fully healthy or just knocking off the rust, but Buehler currently has an ERA in the 7s. Now, injury-wise, more bad news for the Dodgers. Max Muncy's out of the lineup for Los Angeles. TJ Friedl still inactive for Cincy. 7 out of the Reds' last 10 meetings with the Dodgers did get over the total. And actually, the Reds averaged over 5.2 runs a game during that time frame. Meanwhile, the Dodgers saw 3 out of their last 4 at Dodger Stadium get over the line. Give me the Reds plus 1.5 over 8 runs. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. Give me the Yankees minus 1.5 under 8. Cubs minus 1.5 under 7.5 runs. Tampa Bay plus $1.15 over 7.5. Rockies plus 1.5 over 7. Orioles minus $1.10 under 7.5. Mets minus 135 over 7. Nationals plus 1.5 over 7.5. Twins minus $1.20 over 8. Brewers plus 1.5 over 8.5 runs. Royals minus 1.5 under 9. Red Sox minus $1.20 under 8. Rangers minus 145 under 9. Padres plus $1 over 8.5. Tigers plus 1.5 over 7.5. Give me the Reds plus 1.5 over 8. With that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium site. Now, if you do end up getting a membership here today on patreon.com/BrockPage, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. That's why I always tell folks that Chairman Package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. It gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, you also get access to my Chairman podcast absolutely free. It's included with your purchase. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And that's it, folks. Happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium site at patreon.com/BrockPage.